Hey, check out our sponsor, MMAHQ.com.
And now, ladies and gentlemen, before we get started with our first bout, I would like to introduce a very special guest. He is an MMA legend and a UFC Hall of Famer. Ladies and gentlemen, I give you Dan the Beast Severn! All right, Dan the Beast, UFC debut at UFC 4 way back when. It was a great night. We've come a long way with MMA.
I tell you, to be here tonight in central Pennsylvania, Lancaster, tonight alone, probably across the United States, there's probably 100+ different MMA events taking place. In the beginning, it was no holds barred. Now we got the mixed martial arts. The opportunities that these young men have here, it's whatever they want to set their sights on and then pursue it with all their hearts. For you people to be here supporting it, we appreciate it. The fighters appreciate it. Make some noise way out there for them. We appreciate you folks being here.
All right, Dan the Beast Severn, UFC Hall of Famer.
All right, we are here with Dan the Beast Severn. Dan, it's an honor. In fact, I put on a tuxedo because I'm interviewing you today.
I thought this was a rather, I thought you said it was a black eye affair, not a black tie affair.
Oh, we'll get to the black eye in a second.
Where's my drum?
But before we talk about the black eye, you've given guys shares of black eyes, and you started at UFC 4. You're a UFC Hall of Famer. I remember, I think it was Anthony Macias, it was your first fight, and you just tossed him with a couple of suplexes that I thought was going to kill the guy.
By the time I was given the nod that I was in, I only had 5 days to prepare. So 5 days, an hour and a half a day, I was in a professional wrestling ring because it was the closest thing that could come to a cage. I had 3 professional wrestlers and 1 old pair of boxing gloves. And the name of the game was Punch Dan, Punch and Kick a Dan. Dan doesn't like to be punched or kicked, so obviously we moved around. I used my wrestling background. I can honestly say, going into my very first UFC, I did not know a single submission. I did not train a single striking technique. I went out there as a pure wrestler, and then literally Mike Chapman, probably one of the best known authorities, writer on the sport of wrestling, said in one night, I took the sport of wrestling and I took it I took it onto a martial art is what I turned wrestling into.
Oh, absolutely. You know, your wrestling was enough to overpower guys and just crush people. In the Royce Gracie fight, you know, you were mauling them pretty much for 15, 16 minutes. And just tell us, that actually on the pay-per-view cut off for me. I didn't even see the end of the fight. It cut off on the pay-per-view.
Well, then I would like to say that I won that match, but no, I didn't. No, again, that's a lot of growing pains that the UFC has had to go through over the years. And that particular match, you know, the match went on quite some time. The difficult part about that was, I mean, I felt like I was doing everything that I was supposed to be doing. I took my man down. I'm inside of his guard, but then from his perspective, you know, they don't mind fighting off of their back as well. It was probably several minutes into the match when I'm realizing, you know, what primitive types of submission techniques I'm trying to utilize here right now are not working, and I'm going to have to hit this guy.
Yeah.
But it was not in my repertoire. I was going against 26 years of rules and regulations and sportsmanlike conduct. So when I tell people I struggled more with my conscience than I ever did with an opponent, I really did struggle with my conscience at that point in time. Even when I did find throw strikes, it was nothing dead center. It was all peripheral over here. Hope that hurts a little bit. Oh, maybe I bang him over here, hurt him a little more. So I came up short in that match, but that's when, you know, because I finished in the top 2, I'm automatically brought back again. So after that, I knew when the next UFC was going to take place. I took out a 32-day block of time, and I trained everything except no biting, no eye gouging. And thus, Jim Brown, the legendary football player, dubbed me with my ring name, The Beast.
Right. Dan the Beast Severn. And you had a very memorable fight with Tank Abbott. You pretty much mauled him. You know, now he's a tough guy. You were hitting him with a lot of things, doing a lot of things to him, but he can hang in there.
Oh, I watched Tank Abbott knock out a sumo with one punch. And as the sumo laid there, his body stiffened up. Tank struck him again. I kept thinking, that's a man that doesn't have much of a conscience there right now. So I knew that I did not want to be on the receiving end of one of those strikes. So when I did do that match with Tank, I used, again, my grappling ability to take him down on the ground. And the rule was, as long as I stayed active, they were never going to break the match and stand right back up. And I just punched in my time clock. It's time to go to work. He hit me 3 times in 20 minutes. And some guy counted up, he says, Stan Severn, he says, you hit Tank Abbott with 276 right elbow strikes alone.
Yeah, right.
So
right into the back. A lot of the strikes were into the back of the neck. That guy's got a tough neck and head.
Oh, he does. And that, again, the rules were totally different from what the viewers watched at one point in time. What mixed martial arts, as what they, I should say, what mixed martial arts is today to what it was from the no-holds barred era. You could go raise your hand to that ceiling and bring the elbow right back on down again, and that's what I was doing.
Yep. Yeah, and he took it. He took it.
He did.
And he said it was like being raped by Freddie Mercury.
I know. That was actually one of the most. He actually had some really colorful lines with a bunch of his matches right there. And at first, I had to ask one of my guys. I go, who's Freddie Mercury right now? Because I wasn't sure. But I knew in my heart it was not a compliment by any means.
Now, there was one match, I forget the opponent, and Big John McCarthy asked you if you have any questions. And you had a very, like a mathematical question. What was that all about?
Well, the ironic thing is it's kind of like this relationship I've had with John McCarthy. The very first time I ever walked into the octagon, I came across with a one-liner. And he said he heard it, but there's no way it could come out of me because I had my game face on. Mm-hmm. And so, the second time, he's in there going there, he's talking to you, the fighter, and if you're in trouble with this, that, and he always finishes with, are there any questions? And usually not too many fighters have any questions, and he turns off and talks to your corner person. So the second time, I come up with another one-liner onto him. So literally he starts telling his wife, this guy's come up with these one-liners. I get to know the family and the whole 9 yards. So it's just kind of that relationship that Royce had. So I did not know that John was Mike that night. I was simply just pulling something out of the air that turned out, Mary riding a bicycle, and if a train with this space and a train was going that how many apples is Mary? It was like a math problem that there made no rhyme, no reason to.
Right. It was a classic moment, though, and it was those kind of moments that really, propelled the UFC, and really that's why you're in the UFC Hall of Fame. You're fighting skill, but there's more to it. It was the personality, a lot of things going on there.
Well, I think, again, it was a different era, the no-holds barred era, and I was something. I don't know, I'll say something a little bit different. I engaged the game just prior to turning 37 years of age. It was when I started. As you see the little black eye, I'm getting ready to turn 53 here. This was just last Friday was my most recent match. So, the reality is Father Time is saying move along, and I might be a little bit slow on the uptake there sometimes, but I hear him, and I'm looking to be done with my competitive career, by the end of 2012.
Hey, check out our sponsor, MMAHQ.com. Daily deals, awesome products, but move fast. These deals are here today, gone tomorrow. Here's what you missed so far. Check them out, see what's on sale today.